Welcome to another episode of StewTube, you guys. I'm actually, for a lot of you guys, this is going to be a little bit shocking that I am in a little bit of a long position, but don't get too excited. I am just treating this like a typical scalp setup. Yes, I would love for it to take off for me right now, but I'll get into it in a little bit here. Overall, I am still actually quite bearish on Bitcoin. I just think that there is possibilities that we do see some sort of a bounce before continuing to the downside. But I truly believe we're on our way down towards 55.6K approximately. I went into that in my previous videos. I want to touch on the shorter time frame first today, though, before I get into this too much, just because I want to explain the position I'm in. You know, the risks and also just the potential here. So basically my reasoning for taking this position is that it's a Stuber fib setup, right? So I'm pulling my Fibonacci from here up to where we topped out here because there was this little structure break here, right? It was just a wick, but technically that did set a higher high there. So then I am pulling my Fibonacci's from the lowest point between the two up to here, and then looking for that 786, 886 entry. And I mean, this, since it was just a wick and not a candle close above, I mean, that's a pretty weak Stuber fib on its own. But there was a few other things that I added to this, and this is where I was posting in the pro signals last night about some strategies, how I like to use the indicators just for helping spot a trend and using it as confluence and that kind of thing. So what actually gained my attention about this wasn't actually that Stuber fib. It was the fact that it lined up with the auto charting tools here, pulled from higher low to higher high. So that was just additional confluence that, you know, it was just looking more like a valid scalp long. And on top of that, this is the icing on the cake. Now this starts to get a little bit bright and colorful, but basically what we got here on top of these higher lows and higher high, we also have these uptrending buy signals here. So this is what I was talking about last night, where it's not so much just that there is buy signals, but they're trending to the upside. So the indicator's just helping spot that there may be a nice trend to the upside there. On top of that, we start printing these demand zones here. So these green boxes are also printed out by the indicator, and you can see that they actually started overlapping here right as we bottomed out. Basically, it was right where we have the doubled up demand zone mixed with the upward trending buy signals, mixed with the 786 there. That was just a whole bunch of points in my favor that I figured, you know, I think that's a valid scalp setup. Now, to be quite clear, I could still lose a little bit of money on this position. I have downsized my risk because just like any classic Stuber fib setup, I did take my profits just I took a profits on a quarter of my position, just front running the 214 target for the typical scalp setup. Now, if I didn't have those upward trending buy signals and I never had this higher low, higher high signal, I probably would have ended up changing my stop loss to break even, but I actually just have it. I still have that little bit of risk on the table because my stop loss is just basically a little bit below this higher low. Because if that structure is broken, and being I'm so bearish on the mid to long term, I'm just losing all faith in my position at that point. And I'm willing to just cut my losses because for one, like I said, I already downsized my risk by taking some profits. And now my position, if it does get stopped out, would also be smaller, right? So that's basically how I'm looking at it right now. Leaving it open just because we have this beautiful demand zone down here. And again, everything trending to the upside on the indicators yet. I am far from bullish. I want to be very clear on that. I am looking at this as more of a scalp setup. And actually we're starting to see weakness already, but just that this is overlapping. We also have this, the Keltner band down here. There is a few things still trending to the upside. So I'm just willing to hold on to that little bit of risk. I'm totally fine if I end up taking a loss, a very small loss on this. Just because, I mean, I've been doing great shorting the market to the downside the last couple days, so just looking at playing a potential short-term reversal here, but again, just quickly downsizing my risk. And also when I'm trading the long side right now, I'm trading significantly smaller than I'm trading the bearish side right now, because I just don't have a ton of faith in the bulls right now. So my position sizes are actually only about a quarter the size of what my shorts are currently. And that's just because I have a strong bias right now. Now what I'll go into is why I have such a strong bearish bias. I go over this every video with you guys, but this is just neatly laid out how this is. I say this every time. This is not a bias. This is not a personal opinion. This is fact. We are setting a trend of lower lows and lower highs. Yes, you could argue that, hey, this is a higher low, but the thing is that lower high structure was never broken. So technically, this is the big range that we're still in. I mean, when I pulled this fib such a long time ago. I mean, that was back at the start of August. That I pulled this range, and since it hasn't broken to the upside or the downside, that range is still valid. So I'm still looking at it as a potential range continuation to the downside. We literally have had the exact same swing trade set up here to the downside 3 times in a row. We break structure to the downside, lower low, come back to the Stuber fibs there, boom, perfect entry. Lower low, bounce to the new Stuber fib entry, boom, perfect retest entry there. Then we have this new trend here, the one that we're currently in, or this range rather, and we finally got that test into that fib pocket, even weaker than the past couple of swings, because we only made it to the 786 and a little bit higher, but we never did test the 886. So yeah, a little bit of weakness there. And again, it's just, this does not look any different than any of the previous ranges. And every time that we've got towards those 786, 886 fib rejections, the market has been celebrating that we are going to all-time highs very soon. Then with rate cuts happening right there, even with rate cuts and all that sort of thing, as we approach that level, yes, it drove FOMO in, but then look what happened with our liquidations indicator. If this will just load up here in a few seconds. I'm actually not sure why it's not showing up right now. Let me just reload this. Load up the liquidations. I'm not sure why that indicator isn't working right now. That's interesting. Well, either way, you're just gonna have to take my word for it. Let me reload it here, maybe. And I really only want the high leverage liquidation levels, just because I think they're most relevant for the short term. And since I typically like trading the short term, I like to look at just the high leverage liquidations, and I don't know why they aren't showing right now. But that's unfortunate, but whatever, it is what it is. Anyways, if you look at any of my last couple of videos, there was a bunch of liquidation lines of 50 and 100x leverage liquidations forming all the way down, basically back down towards, I think it was like 53K, or maybe it was 50K. But basically it was right around the 786, 886 of this full range swing, right? So the Stuber fib would be right around for a potential, and I actually shouldn't even say that, you guys. This fib pull is not an actual Stuber fib, because there isn't the structure break of that lower high. So this is, although a 786, 886 does get respected quite often, that's just another reason why I'm not necessarily bullish if we do hit those targets. I am still going to be very cautious on the bullish side. I am still going to be favoring the short side if we get any sort of a relief bounce from that point or anything like that. But if I can get my hands on a new juicy short setup and end up, even down here, I would be, yes, I'd be scaling out of my position. I would be taking some profits, but I would absolutely be leaving some on the table, because I think there's potential to go much, much lower. I know people will want to blame the war escalation and stuff like that. I've been talking about this exact structure since the beginning of June, basically. This was a downtrend already. The charts already showed this. So yes, now that the fundamentals and we have war escalating and stuff like that on top of the structure already being there, yeah, I'm willing to give credit to it that, yeah, it could get, it could draw a lot more fear. It could become quite a bit more fearful, more volatile. And the fact that how many times are we going to break structure to the downside until we get some sort of an actual breakout? Because everybody's felt like these dumps to the downside were just crazy inverse parabola type of moves, total capitulation, but they barely broke the ranges. Those were not even breakouts. Those were just rangy, break the range and then get a typical pullback. That's all these bounces were just pullbacks after breaking bearish structure. And right now, that's basically what happened when we topped out here around, what was it, 66.4K or something like that. 66.5, I think, somewhere in there. This weekly candle still looks like absolute trash. Yes, it has 3 days yet, and anything can happen in 3 days, but that's a typical, I mean, just look at that. That is a Stuber fib bearish break on the weekly chart, you guys. We have this lower low here because obviously we have this low, lower low. We end up breaking that low. Yes, it's just a wick, but it is still a break, and it's a weekly wick, right? So yeah, it was a nice recovery there, but look where we bounced to. We just bounced to the bearish Stuber fib. The weekly closed right along it, right below it too, right? Just showing that it couldn't quite stay above that 786. Opened the weekly candle and just absolutely nuked from there. So that looks like a typical bearish Stuber fib setup to me, except it's on the weekly chart instead of the 5-minute chart or something like that. So I absolutely think that there's further room to the downside. But obviously anything can happen between now and then. Nothing has to happen. The market does not give a shit what I think, but that's just kind of my theory. The one early warning sign that maybe things are going to get bullish is we do have this RSI downtrend break. But honestly, I feel like that's reaching, and it's holding on to one bullish factor and ignoring a whole bunch of bearish factors. So we're going to have to see what happens there. How is this going? Oh, I probably got stopped out on the rest of that, actually. Let me check my other device here. Yeah, so I'm not even in a position anymore, so I gotta find something new here. Actually, one reason I probably should have, and obviously Captain Hindsight is always a bitch, but technically we did get, I ignored my own strategy, is we had that lower sell signal come into play. I probably should have bailed on, a bigger chunk of my position, or at least updated my stop loss to break even when that happened. That's my bad for getting sidetracked and not even noticing my own thing. So yeah, now I'm interested to see what happens. Now I just kind of want to watch for a little bit, see what things are going to line up here, because obviously we lost this Stuber fib here, so now things are to the bearish side as far as this structure goes. If I go something like so, we have our bearish break. I would love a pullback to that Stuber fib. That's the type of trade setup I would love to go for. Actually, let me check the 5-minute. There could be potential for this kind of a pullback. This is just theoretical at this point, but it is just something to watch for. So as far as a short setup, I mean, that could be a juicy That would be about a 3.4 to 1 as far as risk reward goes. That's if that were to play out like that, obviously. Let's hop back into the 1 minute. Like, I really feel tempted to FOMO into a short right now, but there's a few things. For one, I don't want to FOMO into a position. I want to see some sort of a decent pullback after a structure break. And also, there's just potential that relatively soon we're going to see some relief because the wave master down here is starting to flip a little bit bullish here, cross into the bullish side. Not to say we can't go down a little more. It's just an early warning that, hey, something could be about to reverse, even if it's just short term, right? So in that case, it would be more likely that I could get up to some sort of a Stuber fib pull. If we keep going to the downside, then I can just basically keep chasing the price. But this is what it's at currently. Oh, even this mini structure break here, you could technically take a very, very tight stop loss scalp with your stop loss basically somewhere up here. But again, that's risky just because there's the early warning signs. But technically we do have this low, lower low, very micro analyzed, but there is that lower low, lower low. Even if we did something like this, I think that was a Stuber fib. Yeah. But yeah, I would rather see some sort of a bigger pullback. I would rather see something like this and swing at a short and then have my stop loss basically just getting invalidated by breaking, setting another higher high. There was already some good opportunities for some Stuber shorts just earlier. If you notice, just where we topped out on this trend, we obviously broke this structure right about here. And if you were ever looking for Stubers ever since that, actually that was that would have been basically a perfect entry. Obviously that's hindsight, but that's just you know, it's the more examples you see, the more you're gonna see them and that sort of thing, right? So that would have been a beautiful play, and obviously it did come down to the target, right? So it's crazy how often those ranges play out like that. I wanted to touch on XRP because I noticed yesterday it was absolutely nuking. It's broken some very serious structure, you guys. I know a lot of people are perma moon boys on XRP for some reason. They think it's going to crazy numbers like 500 US dollars and stuff like that. It's already one of the top market caps. I don't know why they think it's going to, you know, after it's already done its thousands of X's. Like XRP's big moment was a couple cycles ago, not even last cycle, but 2 cycles ago. XRP had its moment in the sun. That was its big hype cycle. To expect that kind of a, you know, even more so of a move when its market cap is so crazy high is absolutely ridiculous. Basically, it's broke 2 fairly significant uptrends on the 4-hour as far as I'm concerned. These date back basically to the start of July. And yeah, notice that we got some very nice touch points, even where we broke down to. You can see this recent 4-hour candle is actually respecting this old support line as resistance. To be fair, it's almost at a Stuber fib target, because once again, that would have been an absolutely juicy short to be in, obviously. I don't watch altcoins all too often, but yeah, this just caught my eye yesterday, so I wanted to talk about it. but here would have been our lower low because we had this structure break here. And then after we ended up breaking this low would have been here, pulling the Fibonacci from the top of the range down to where it broke structure. And notice that, you know, anywhere near the 786 would have been absolutely phenomenal entries. Just seeing examples, you know, I've had a lot of people ask me, you know, do these work on altcoins? Do these work on stocks? Yeah, like I follow Tesla and MicroStrategy and stuff like that, and they also respect Stuber fibs. Altcoins also do. Obviously, they're not going to happen every time, but just so often when you have that structure break followed by that pullback, if the trend is going to continue, especially, just so often after testing the 786, 886, you end up getting to that 214, which is basically the opposing 786, right? Front runs it a little bit. So that being said, guys, if that entire move is going to play out, you could expect XRP to get down kind of around 44 cents, 44, 45 cents, maybe even lower. Really depends. Like if Bitcoin's going to set lower lows and break out to the downside, XRP is going to get absolutely devastated. In my opinion anyways. But yeah, I think there's room to the downside there yet. You know, I'm just seeing so much weakness on so many different charts that I just can't be overly bullish on too much. How's everyone else feeling on the market? Anybody else think I am way out to lunch with bearish theories? Do you think it's spot on? Do you think that the bottom is in at 49K? Do you think we're going significantly lower? Because here's my thing, you guys. On the weekly chart, if we don't break this lower high structure here, which is up around 70K, we still have this bearish trend intact on the weekly chart. Whether or not this was a nice bullish reversal hammer, whatever you want to call it, the structure has not changed yet. It's still lower lows and lower highs and Stuber fib, Stuber fib, Stuber fib. 3 exact rejections at the exact same type of breakdowns. So if that is going to the break to the downside, the only support levels Bitcoin really created in this bull market so far was kind of this range, like 44 down to 40K, somewhere in there. I could absolutely see us getting some sort of a bounce at that level. I still don't necessarily think that the bottom will be in. Yes, it's absolutely possible that that could be the bottom. My one concern with that is what happens if we lose this level? If we lose this level, there was basically no trading in this range on the way up. Yes, last market cycle there was some trading in this range, but this market cycle there was no real interest in that range. Basically from 40K down towards, call it 28K. So if that support range around 40K doesn't hold, you know, it could be very low prices for Bitcoin that not many people want to talk about. I know I get in shit for talking about it quite often from people on my channel. A lot of people don't want to hear it, but just understand that absolutely anything is possible, right? I'm not saying we're going there. I'm not saying that it's probable we're going there, but it is absolutely possible. And if this was a 5-minute chart, that's the long setup I would be looking for. If we ignore the price levels, we ignore the numbers, and we actually go by chart structure, that is where I would be looking for a pullback to get into a long entry. So the fact that this is a weekly, yeah, it feels unrealistic, but it's absolutely possible. I want to reload the 4-hour chart. I want to see what some indicators are saying. Are liquidations working yet? No. ALGO master, what do we have? We have a buy signal. Technically, it's like a double bottom buy signal. Sell signals are still to the downside, so a little bit of conflicting stories there. Looks like the bulls are having a hell of a time holding on to that bull trend. You can see that candle bodies are closing below it, so starting to see a little bit of weakness there. Auto charting tools, well, those are beautiful. So Another strategy I've been talking about quite a bit, you guys, and again, this is going to be Captain Hindsight, I'm sorry, but just so you can look for these in the future and adding it to your arsenal of trading strategies. This is one that I personally like to use anyways, is looking at these pivot points. And, you know, a lot of people who, especially if you're newer to trading or just not comfortable with Fibonacci's and that sort of thing, these things can be an absolute life hack, the auto charting tools. Just look at this whenever we get these pivot points, especially when we get these lower high signals. For example, if you're looking for short setups, right? For one, there would have been a beautiful entry there in the Stuber Fib pullback. So just basically pulled from the lower high signal down to where the price was at, you know, just chasing the price like I talked about earlier. Right back into that fib pocket, laddering in entries, and boom, absolutely nuked to the downside. But then if you continue chasing the price off that signal, because nothing's changed yet, notice that you get a second shot at the exact same Fibonacci pull, just that you kept following the trend or whatever. Look how beautifully it ends up filling that 786, 886 fib pocket. After that, set a new lower low, then we have a new lower high. So what are we going to do? Pull the Fibonacci, pull it from the lower high down to our lower low, and notice where we get another beautiful short entry. It's crazy how well those work so often. I'm curious about even this bullish one, even though it was wrong, I'm curious if it would have worked out. That depends how loose your stop loss was, honestly. I like to use leave a little wiggle room past the 115. That's my reminder to leave wiggle room beyond, you know, our current bottom, just in case of liquidity grabs and that sort of thing. So even though this lower low signaled a bearish move, notice that if your stop loss happened to be loose enough and you ended up avoiding that liquidity grab, it would have hit that 214 target eventually. But obviously they're not all going to work out, and that one is left to interpretation, right? But either way, when the downtrend started, I mean, there's been beautiful entries there. Like, what kind of a move did this end up getting? First of all, this one ended up getting a 26% move to the downside. Then this one also, that one would have been another 30% to the downside. So far out of this one, we're looking at about 8%. So those are very big moves, especially when you add some leverage to it. I know I'm a sucker for looking at much shorter time frames generally, but man, some of these signals on the longer time frames are just absolutely phenomenal as far as pulling Fibonacci's. And just notice that just, you know what, I'm going to reload my 4-hour chart here, because notice where, I'm just going to clean things up a little bit. I'm going, just out of curiosity, I'm interested to see where it prints its lower highs and lower lows and everything with the auto charting tools. Yeah, so notice it printed out although it said this was a higher low, I was looking at this as the structure break, so I was already not looking at this as a higher low. And then confirming this as a pivot point, looking at structure, not so much the indicator for this point down here, it would have been a perfect Stuber Fib entry as well, right? So even though this one was working against the trend, it still ended up playing out because we had this structure break. But yeah, notice that the lower highs are printed right as I was talking about how this is not left to interpretation. This is not a bias. The indicator agrees with me 100% here, other than this little one right here. But that's fine. Other than that, all our signals align, and that's just further confirmation that we are still technically in a downtrend. So this is one of those times, right, where we did, so actually, let me just make a new Fibonacci. So even though this is, actually, well, look at that. That one would have played out too. But just looking for a new one now, since we have that new structure break, I would love to see a pullback to this. And again, if we end up breaking out to the upside, whatever, that's totally fine. Cut my losses. But just in case that downtrend really takes off, I want to be a part of that. Hopefully everything I'm explaining kind of makes sense. Again, I know this is a lot of hindsight examples, but I just really think that there's a lot of value, and the more you see it, the more you're going to see it, kind of a thing, right? So we have a buy signal technically right now from the indicators, but again, we have a lower sell and a lower buy signal. So just a heads up that I don't know, I think that it's more likely that we're heading to the downside fairly soon. But I still want to see that pullback.
Like the sort of thing I described with having in 6 months boring, and then Bitcoin moves, and people are preemptively sort of getting them.
Jaybird, welcome.
Oh, sorry, man.
All good, all good. Just thought I'd let you know you're on the air.
I'll mute it.
Yeah, so basically right now, again, I'm still favoring the downside. I just can't shake my bearish bias. I just think that, you know, until proven otherwise, like even the fact that with all these ranges, I'm going to reload the chart. I've done this so many times already, but just bringing up these old Fibonacci's, notice that after we tested the Stuber Fibs, after the structure break to the downside, we also end up getting that slightly diagonal trend line break, and then just carry on. And then from that, we end up breaking lower lows, right? So we're going to have to see if this one does the same thing, because if we end up setting another lower low, I don't know how many more, I guess, fake outs can happen to the downside. I just feel like eventually, especially with war escalations and how many times we've set lower lows now, if we lose this one again, especially after a nice recovery wick like that, if we end up losing that, I think that we're going to significantly lower prices. You know, a Stuber Fib we could look for that kind of a thing, for a temporary bottom, if we do have some sort of a crazy breakout, would be down around 46K, down towards 42K would technically be the Stuber Fib pulled for this. But there's a lot of what ifs between now and then. I don't want to get ahead of myself. At this point, basically targeting down towards, this would be right around 53.4K, 53.5K. I want to be clear about this as well. If we get down to that level, that is just a target as far as a range target. I am by no means bullish as we approach that level because we don't have the structure break yet to support that theory, but I am open to the idea of a bounce, some sort of recovery at that level. It could even be the bottom if it even happens, right, guys? But it could absolutely be the bottom, but that's totally fine as far as I'm looking at it. I don't have FOMO at all for the market, at least to the upside. Honestly, I have more FOMO to the downside right now. But if we hit those levels, it's at least a range target, but it's by no means me flipping bullish because I just don't think the structure is there to turn me into a moon boy yet. I will absolutely swing at some long scalps and hope they turn into a runner at those levels if I see it, you know, seeing the indicators trending a certain direction or anything like that. But I'm just not going to preemptively set limit orders or anything like that at those levels. If I'm in a short position at the time, I will be setting partial take profit orders because I'll see it as a buy level, but it's just going to be, that's very different than getting bullish and taking a long position, right? Notice with this fib pull that I took, we did even just recently print a lower low signal. So that's confirming my structure break here perfectly. So this auto charting tools, for those of you who don't know, it does show up later, right? It's a lagging indicator. But that's still, I mean, it still works for pulling fibs and stuff, even though you don't, you know, it's not printing on that exact candle. It waits for whatever confirmations that it waits for. But I love to see that it matches up with my own analysis that, yes, that was a structure break. indicator agrees, but I still want to see that pullback. That's the thing, right? That's why people generally short into support and long into resistance, because they see that break in structure like that, and people want to jump on a short right now. And I feel that right now too, because there's absolutely the chance that I don't get my entries up here. But I'm not going to FOMO into a breakout, because then your invalidation is so much further away. Whereas if you wait for that pullback, I mean, your stop loss, you can use, you know, like I myself, then that way I can use higher leverage and all that sort of stuff, because your stop loss is that much tighter. Because every trader loses trades, every trade setup loses trades. It's just being able to control your losses so that you can endure a lot of them. Basically, you got to survive the market. Generally speaking, the market likes to chop around. It doesn't typically like to break out all that aggressively. When you really zoom in, it chops around a lot more than it's breaking out. So totally natural to break structure and then get that pullback. And that's all time frames, right? That's just like what I was talking about with all of these setups, all three of them being the exact same. We get a structure break, people get very bearish and start shorting, whereas I'm looking at, okay, that's my signal, but my entry is waiting for a pullback. And I myself, I typically don't even trade the 4 hour, but the trade setups that I do on the 5 minute and the 1 minute, the 4 hour is no different, right? I'm just more of a high leverage, short term time frame kind of a trader. But this is where I'm getting bearish, is after the pullbacks. Yes, after a structure break like this, I start acknowledging that that's very bearish, but that doesn't mean that I'm FOMO shorting immediately. I'll try and catch one on a shorter time frame, but then I'm treating it more like a scalp. But I'm open to the idea that, hey, if we reclaim that level, then it's absolutely possible we get that further pullback, right? So, and all 3 times that we've broke this structure to the downside, we've got that every time now. It even took 2 tries with this pump here. Notice that we got very close, but never quite made it to the 786 there. Whereas this swing we actually did, and now we got that structure break. So now is where I'm very curious to see, just like these previous swings, if we end up taking out the lower low again. If that happens, then again, we see if we get some sort of a bounce. Mark my words that everybody would start getting bullish. We would have a lower high, we'll chase the price, and everyone would start getting bullish into resistance once again. You see it every time, right? But we're going to have to see what happens there, because, I mean, as it stands, yeah, I'm still very bearish on this. The fact that this is even on the, or this is the daily. I thought I was on the 4 hour. This is the daily. So same thing, right? Structure acts the same. But notice, even on the daily, we lost this little trend line. And even if you don't want to look at diagonal trend lines or whatever, here we have a nice order block right here. Let's just use that whole candle body of that red candle before we ended up breaking to the upside there. That's where we lost our trend. And notice that, yeah, we respected it. We even tried to reclimb into it, and that daily candle got rejected. And we've just been carrying on to the downside since that. So I see no reason why I would be bullish at this point, honestly. Even if we get some sort of a bounce right now, since we lost this structure here, we could end up just setting another super fib. Just another smaller one, right? Just a smaller range inside a bigger range. Absolutely a possibility. Starting to see bullish divergence on the RSI as we just trade sideways here. So that's a sign that, hey, maybe we are temporarily bottoming and we're going to get some sort of a relief bounce. But I'm far from bullish. Ooh, Another bearish signal there. I'm having a hard time not jumping into this. Yeah, just everywhere I look, guys, I just keep seeing weakness. Please get up to my entries. But yeah, basically my trading style lately has been very much so looking for those bearish Stuber fib setups, being quick to take profits on part of my position, but I'm always trying to leave some open and trying to catch something just in case I get that massive nuke to the downside. But that's the thing, right? Like, I'm open to the idea, but I'm not banking on that with my entire position. I'm downsizing my risk very quickly when I open positions, just like that long I took earlier, right? So I was able to at least, I still did take a small loss on that, but being I took some profits and then had a smaller position when I got stopped out, it at least minimized the risk a little bit, right? But yeah, very much so favoring bearish setups these days. Your knees, welcome, welcome. Good to see you again. I did see you join earlier. Good to see you. Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember how much you all missed or whatever, but this is basically, I think you see exactly what I'm looking at here. It's too bad I never took a short off this guy, because that would have played out absolutely beautifully. And then obviously a little bit further for the rest of it running. But I didn't. So now I gotta hope we get some sort of a recovery get up here. And then on that note, you know, I'm going to be laddering into a position. And if we end up breaking out and, you know, invalidating this higher high and breaking out, losing my Stuber fib setup invalidation levels, then I just cut my losses and wait for the next one. Oh, another thing I wanted to point out on the 4-hour actually was a potential pennant formation to watch for. Some of you guys may have seen this. I think this was actually in one of my financial summit streams. But basically, and I have no idea which way this would break or anything like that. But that is a pennant formation that I'm watching for. And I actually had alerts set on it, because I want to see how it's reacted with. I'm not setting blind orders at those levels. Oops, let me just check one thing. Once per minute, because I want it to annoy the hell out of me, so that I make sure I look at it. But if we get some sort of a liquidity grab, being that it's only been tested twice on both sides so far, I am expecting like some sort of a third rejection, whichever side it ends up hitting. So I would love, just to back up my theory, I would love to see some sort of a third touch here, but then quickly lose it and then flip that support into resistance. I think that would be a very strong bearish signal in my opinion. I think at that point it would be safe to say that, or at least the way I'll be looking at it, is I would be expecting us to break these lower low levels. And if that does happen, then we have ourselves a new lower high to start pulling a Fibonacci from, right? But not until we break this lower low. You could look for a smaller range one, obviously, but just as far as the macro structure goes, we have not broken this range yet. We do have a sell signal coming right off that Stuber fib as well. It is technically a higher sell signal and still higher trending buy signals, but it really looks like we're losing that. This might take a while to play out, so I don't know how much longer I'll stream here. We've been at it for almost an hour already. Holy smokes. What else? What else? XRP, yeah, still looking like trash. What's the shorter time frames looking like on XRP? Oh boy. Look how well it respected that daily trend line. Oof. That's not looking so hot. I might take a short on XRP. I am going to take a short on XRP. And I'll invalidate it if we end up breaking back above this red trend line. So basically invalidated if we break above 53 cents. Sorry, just gonna be quiet here while I get my positions ready. It is absolutely possible that this gets invalidated, but being I was looking at that on a daily, or no, it was the 4 hour, and it looks like we're respecting it on the 4 hour as well. I see possibility of climbing to the upside, but that is a nice tight invalidation at a potential mega drop. So I'm willing to take that risk. Being we basically have this double top with these sell signals as well. That's just a nice easy invalidation, a trend line and the signals like that. So yeah, that's not so bad. It's too bad I didn't look at this earlier. I should have had an alert set on that trend line. See, that's exactly why I set those alerts on those 4 hour trend lines. Because had I done that on XRP, oh man, as soon as we got this little, well, as soon as we tapped them, I mean, those were, especially one like this, tap it, fail, and just basically consolidating for there for a bit, that would have been a very nice tight stop loss. But yeah, I'm just going to ladder in some orders on the way up to that. Try and bring up my average entry, laddering in heavier as we go higher. I always start my position small and then basically ladder in heavier to try and make my average better. Just to keep that risk management tight too, right? So that's not to be confused with quadrupling down on my position or anything like that. That means I have a position size in mind. as a maximum, and from there I'm breaking it up. So yes, there's absolutely a chance that only 1 or 2 of the orders gets filled, and then yeah, I'm gonna get significantly less profits, but it's just a lot safer, because then if I'm wrong, the loss is a lot more controlled, right? I just wanted to get something in just in case this does hold as macro resistance here for that much larger dump. Wait a second. According to this 1 minute chart, we didn't even go that low. Oh. I should get to the chart that I'm actually trading. Rookie mistake. Hopefully we have the same trend line. Oh, that's significantly different. In fact, I would say, well, that kind of changes things. Yeah, whatever. Let's see what happens. So that's a lesson in why sometimes I get asked, oh, why aren't you using this chart or that chart? I typically like to look at whatever chart I'm actually trading, because there can be slight differences like that, right? And when choosing a stop loss and stuff like that, that can make a lot of difference. But what's the auto charting tool saying here? Notice again, kind of, actually, I'm going to pull a slightly different fib here as well, because this is calling this our structure break. Mark that red just as a bearish signal. Pull a fib from the highest point between the two, which would be right here. So then if I was looking for a Stuber short entry, I'd basically be just chasing the price now, right? If we end up going down lower, then I just keep pulling it. Anyone else in any interesting positions, altcoins or Bitcoin? How's everyone feeling about the markets? Midterm, long term, short term, whatever. I am all ears. I like hearing different opinions. Makes me second guess my own biases and stuff like that. I don't want to be a part of an echo chamber like everybody on Twitter, for example. I would rather have my ideas challenged rather than, I mean, obviously if you actually agree with it, great, but if you're agreeing with it just because it seems like the opinion to have, that's not how trading works, right? So as traders, we don't care which way the markets are trending. A lot of people mostly look at crypto as, I need this to go up. I honestly don't care. I need it to stay volatile. Direction does not matter. Just curious, how do you guys feel on that end? Like, obviously a bull market is super fun and everything, but I find it a little bit stressful. Like, I don't know, just like wondering if you should still be dollar cost averaging on the way up. Like, it comes to a point where, well, I still want to buy it because I'm bullish on it, but when it gets to a certain point, it's hard to keep buying, right? Whereas in bear markets, it's fun to accumulate, and shorting's really fun because it's so volatile. I love shorting because of how fast the moves happen. And there's just that special feeling when the market goes down and you make a bunch of money. It feels so good. Ooh, I might have to FOMO into a bit of a Bitcoin short as well, because we got another lower high signal. Invalidation can be just above that now. And Asia is just waking up also, hey? I don't like to FOMO into a trade at the bottom of a range, but the thing is, since it is a nice, tight, coiled up range with a nice, clear invalidation level, I don't mind swinging at this, because again, I can't help but feel like there's a bigger move looming to the downside, and I want to catch it when it happens. If it happens. Yes, it might be a little bit of FOMO, but there's also a reason there, right? So anytime I have nice tight invalidation on a short setup these days, I am quick to pull the trigger. I might also lose 2 trades here. That's totally fine, though. The amount of money the short side has been printing lately just kind of makes it all worthwhile to, you know, take a swing at some of the short setups. Ooh, double buy signal. But that's okay, maybe then I'll get some more of my XRP entries. Basically, if the 5-minute on XRP can hold below this lower high signal, I'm going to be feeling bearish on XRP. The midterm looks bad either way, but as far as the short term goes, I want to see us stay below basically 52 cents, 52.7 cents, whatever you want to call it. 0.527. If we can stay below that, I think it remains bearish in the short term. Actually, there was a perfect bearish super again with that strategy. I didn't wait for it, but that would have played out already too. That's obviously a very small range. I'm looking for a bigger move than that, but as far as the scalp setup, that absolutely played out already. Whenever I'm just watching the short-term time frames like this, I always miss having music, like when I'm streaming on Financial Summit. Just on the other streaming platform, I can at least get some tunes going. For those of you who aren't aware, also, I do this sort of thing on the Financial Summit, their public YouTube channel as well. So give them a subscribe as well, because I try 2 or 3 times a week to hop in there and check out the 1 minute and the 5 minute and just kind of watch some volatility here and there. So if you like watching short time frames and hanging out talking crypto, do yourselves a favor and subscribe to them as well. There is some potential support there. I like how very recently we ended up printing these stacked supply zones. Man, I would love to see XRP end up dropping to the bottom of this range again. That would be so juicy. What kind of a move are we looking for if that does end up happening? Another 15% move to the downside, absolutely a possibility. I would consider, I would definitely, if I'm even still in that position at the time that this would happen, I'd be looking at starting to take profits more so around 48 cents. Realistically, I'm going to be looking at shorter time frames and scaling out if this even turns into a winner. But that's definitely something I'd be interested in, just as a bit of a warning, right? Because since that auto charting tools printed that higher low signal there, that's just a reason for me to pull a Fibonacci from there and just watch for, is there anything catching my eye that I should be watching for? And I would say that this could be a significant level. Again, not necessarily saying I'm going to get bullish at that level, but if I am in a short position at that time, I would be looking at starting to take some profits. TP1 signaled from the indicator there. So if we do get some sort of a bounce, that's a potential play. Obviously invalidation just above the lower high signal basically. If you want to give it the wiggle room of a classic Stuber fib, I like to leave a little room past the 115. But especially that this indicator printed this lower high signal, I think if we invalidate that at all, I think it's basically... even if we get some sort of a pullback liquidity grab, I think it would be short-lived and that would be invalidated, and I think we might carry on to the upside higher. So something to be cautious of going into the evening here. Caught some nice shorts yesterday and this morning actually, with Bitcoin, and man, trading the downside has been so fun lately. Has anyone else been shorting a bunch, or mostly are you trying to catch the long side of things, or how is everyone looking at trading these days? Or do you not have a bias and you're just trading whichever way? I've been trading both ways a little bit, but like I said earlier in the stream, my long positions are generally like a quarter the size of my short positions. I am very much so favoring the short side of my trade setups these days. Oh, I think I see Cause typing. I know you're not scared to trade either way. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I have my bias, I have my setups that I favor, but generally speaking, I'll still trade either way a little bit. The bulls are trying to do stuff. Trying being the key word. Those demand zones could be an issue for me. Demand zone and the Keltner band. However, notice the bands are starting to curl to the downside as well. I am going to close a quarter of my short position here, just treating it like a scalp because, you know, we are hovering right around the take profit for a classic Stuber fib, so I just want to downsize my risk a little bit. I'm not going to change my stop loss yet, though. I'm just downsizing my risk by taking a little bit of profits as well as just downsizing my position. But I'm definitely open to the idea of this trend continuing to the downside, so I am keeping 3/4 open. And that's another thing, honestly. I find that evenings and overnight, I notice that so often the market's dumping while I'm sleeping. So even if we get some sort of a bounce, I think it is going to be short-lived. If you really wanted to microanalyze things, you could technically say this was a lower low followed by another lower low, making this the lower high. Again, it's microanalyzing, but that's just the very immediate trend, right? That would be our lower high, technically, on the 1 minute, so take it for what it is. But that's just the very, very immediate downswing, right? Ranges inside ranges. So this is why I like looking at the 1 minute and the 5 minute and stuff with you guys, is because it's fun to actually do the live analysis and just kind of show how I'm changing my charts as I go, important levels that I think are worth watching. Yes, it's just the 1 minute. Not everyone wants to be trading the 1 minute, but like I was talking about earlier, structure generally works the same, right? Whether it's the 4 hour, 1 hour, 15 minute, 5 minute, 1 minute, weekly, it's all kind of the same. There is an important question I'm asking myself now, though. What do I want to eat? What do you guys recommend? What should I treat myself to tonight?
Are you making something at home or are you ordering out?
Oh, I'm open to either or. I'm usually pretty lazy and I don't like being in the kitchen, and the missus is away from home today, so yeah, I'll probably end up going to get something, and I really like that I just read a poutine. My Canadian friends would appreciate a good poutine. How many of you guys have ever had poutine? God damn, that's a good idea. That's exactly what I'm getting. But I'll watch this for a little bit longer, I suppose.
Oh, damn. Okay. I didn't know what poutine was. French
Oh, really?
fries, cheese curds, and gravy?
Oh,
Bro, what?
it's so fucking good. Yeah, I guess that's mostly just a Canada thing. So I just always forget. I just assume it's everywhere because I eat it so much. I eat it with every meal when I order out, basically. Fries. Oh, you want to upgrade to poutine? Well, yeah.
That's crazy, bro. I didn't
Oh,
know that that was a thing.
oh, it's one of the best things ever. And then you get places that like throw other stuff on it, throw bacon on it, throw, pulled pork, throw all sorts of shit in there.
Well, one of the things that I made for dinner 2 nights ago was I made cheeseburger meatballs. So threw
Oh,
some cheese, ground beef, breadcrumbs, seasonings, egg, mix it together, made balls, and then wrapped them in bacon,
oh
and then cooked
God,
them in the
yeah.
oven. Oh
You are
my
speaking
goodness.
my language.
Oh, they were so good. And they made like a special sauce to like dip them in. They had like relish and ketchup and mayonnaise and mustard in it. Oh, it was so good.
Nice. My favorite dive karaoke bar in town here has the best poutine ever, in my opinion. They have like crinkle fries, and I get it's bacon cheeseburger poutine. Oh my god! And then I get really drunk and sing karaoke and sing Stew in as many songs as I can. Turns out the word "you" is used a lot in a lot of songs. Come on, XRP. Drop your floor. Just do it. Be cool.
Yeah, I think it'd be funny just with the announcement of the ETF or whatever. Send it back to 44 cents.
Is it, did it get an ETF approval or what? I haven't
I
been
think
following it
they
along.
didn't get an approval, but they got the first like official
Oh,
like there's actual paperwork for one.
they're starting to do things.
Yeah, it's like an actual thing. Bitwise filed for the first one today.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't care about XRP for the most part, to be honest. Um, but I'll take volatility either way. It's cool that they are bringing all these ETF approvals and stuff, making it so that crypto's a real thing to the normies. But honestly, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about mass adoption. Obviously, yes, it'll be nice to be a part of that and be a part of the early days and whatnot. But oh man, that's gonna make, like, every market cycle, volatility is gonna get lower and lower, right? Because there's so much more money in, means there's so much more money to move the market. As all these big players get in, they move the markets. It's gonna be moving more like gold rather than crypto, right? But or Bitcoin will, anyways. But the good news about that is we have so much access to excessive amounts of leverage that one should never use. There may come a day when that is very beneficial. I mean, just like Forex trading and everything, right? It's way less volatile, so you just add way more leverage. Come on, XRP. You can dump harder than that. I've seen it. I've lived that. Oxtail. I can't say I've ever had oxtail. Is it so? If If it's something that used to be alive, I'll probably enjoy it. Jamaican spots. Oh, interesting. Are you by chance from Jamaica? That's one of the favorite places I've ever been. Just a fan. Nice. Yeah, I went to Jamaica. Oh man, that would have been in like 2012 probably. 2011, 2012, somewhere in there. Oh man, it was awesome. The food was so good. Everything was delicious there. Literally everything. There was leaves on the plant, on like the trees, that the tour guide would be like, here, just taste these leaves. It's like, oh, they're delicious. Everything was good. I'd love to do a kite surfing trip to Jamaica sometime, but I think we're going to do Cuba, which is on the other end of the food thing. Cuba has amazing beaches. Food, not so good.
Bro, that house that I sent in the DR
Yeah.
was insane.
Oh, yeah. I showed the girlfriend that. I was like, well, I might have to book a trip. The Dominican is one of the best places to kite in the world. I've kited there a couple times as well. So that was right at like Cabarete, I think. That's like Kite Central. One of these years we should make that happen.
I vote if Bitcoin doesn't hit 100K after this presidential debate, we just do it instead of the 100K party. Like if we gotta wait another 4 years for 100K, we'll just do that instead.
Yeah, I like it. Hell, I'd do a 100K party there. I'd rather go there than a big city.
Well, the funny thing about that is that they're all like, "Oh yeah, we'll just do like Ibiza or something like that. Like that's pretty central." And it's like, well, except for meat and stew.
Yeah, there's a few of us that would be a little out of the way. Yeah, cause absolutely, if XRP dumps, XLM would most likely follow. Honestly, I have a feeling it's going to be the entire market following the entire market. I think there's a chance that a lot of things are going to see a lot of bloodshed soon. But yes, those two are very much correlated, right? Yeah, all dump. Nuke this Ponzi. That mini Stuber never played, or never happened, but the new fib pulled absolutely did. Anyone catch that? I should have added to my position up there, actually. Whoops. XRP short you took during the stream? Nice, nice. What is my XRP short sitting at? %. That being said, I could still take a loss because I'm being greedy on this one. I will update my stop loss to break even if we get some sort of like another structure, even on the 5 minute. Like if we set that kind of a structure where we have a confirmed lower low and then we have a lower high structure point, then at least, you know, I can update my stop loss and there's actually structure there showing that, hey, if this invalidates, it could actually reverse. Whereas right now I don't really have anything worth updating my stop loss for yet. I guess I could check the 1 minute. On the 1 minute I could, technically. This would be the lower high of the very immediate trend. Like if you're looking for scalping kind of a thing, is we obviously had this low, got a little bounce because we got some green candles, then we set a lower low, right? Again, yes, very micro analyzing, but when you understand structure, it doesn't really matter. That's what I'm seeing here. So low, lower low, that gives this as our lower high, but then we set another lower low, which made this our lower high. Now we've actually set another lower low, so technically that would be our lower high for the immediate downswing. Obviously not of a crazy range or anything like that, just this very immediate downswing. So I am going to bump my stop loss up to a very small profit, just above 52 cents, but I would be open to the idea of re-entering given the opportunity if I do get stopped out there. I just want to keep my risk fairly tight. 52.02. But XRP, I'm going to keep that one on my radar, I think, because there looks like some potential juicy volatility there. I'm tempted to bump up my stop loss on the on this guy as well. Not quite yet. I am gonna close a third of my XRP position actually at 11% here. Again, just even though I'm hoping for a bigger move, I just want to make sure I pay myself, treating this more as scalping and then hoping to catch a runner. Well, I'm glad volatility picked up right as I was about to end the stream. Yeah. Let's go. The thing is, technically, on this downtrend, we broke that structure, so there might be some kind of a bounce. But I'm not bullish. I'm obviously, well, for many reasons that I talked about this whole stream, I am not bullish at all. But just understand that bounces are still possible, right? So let's say you were in a short from here, or you caught it up here, or whatever. I myself, I mean, I always trade the range first and then hope for a runner after that. So being we're at the bottom of the range, I mean, technically the range targets have been hit, right? So that's why I've taken a little bit off both my positions, but still letting some run. Nice. I love that we broke down again a little bit. Love to see it. See some kind of a reaction at the bottom of the range like that. I might take a little more profits off my short as well. I want to see how this candle closes. If the candle closes above that wick, I'm going to close a quarter of the remainder of my position. If it closes below, I'm going to leave it. That's dirty, right against. Basically, if the same goes with the next candle, if a candle closes above this. I am going to bump up my stop loss as well to break even. 66.66. Just because since I did take a little bit of profits off the position. That was actually before we got this bounce, but when I took some profits off the table here, now that we got that Stuber fib rejection here, if we start climbing again, it's just a bit of, I don't know, seeing too much strength at that point, and I'd rather just, you know what, if I've started paying myself already, I can always just cut that one at break even with the rest of the position. I already took a little bit of profits, and then I can find the next trade set up again. Just basically the same type of strategies that I've been looking for this whole stream. Thanks for joining, my dude. I'm probably going to wrap up fairly soon too, but just when the position started running in our favor here, I just figured I'm going to keep watching for now. But eventually the tummy is starting to rumble, so eventually I got to wrap up. But for now, I want to see what happens here. Yeah, so I'm closing a quarter of the remainder of my Bitcoin position, and stop loss is at break even, so I think I'll get tagged out here, but I would love to find another position. I might even re-enter if we just get back up to resistance up here. What are the indicators saying? Holy, that's a lot of colors when everything gets going. There is a lot of supply and a lot of demand going on right now. Notice how the sell signals are still trending to the downside and the buy signals are still trending to the downside as well. We do have obviously a bunch of overlapping demand at this level, so we are at support, so be cautious of that. But the indicator is still trending to the downside, so I like that for my position. But yeah, if the rest of it gets stopped out right away, I'll just be itching for reasons to get into a new short later this evening. I have a feeling we're going to see a lower high signal print here, but it hasn't yet. So, I mean, obviously it doesn't have to happen, but if it does, I mean, that would be a new opportunity to pull a new Stuber fib, right? It's too early to actually do that right now, but just if that lower high signal does print on the indicator, I would consider it valid. Nuke. Come on. You know you want to. Anyone know what Sato was up to? No new signals on the 5-minute printed yet. What's the 3-minute looking like? That's one that I always forget to check. I like the 3-minute from time to time. That's pulled from a little higher, so a little bigger range. Depends what kind of time frame you're into, right? You know, I bet there's a way we can just watch both. So I don't have to be flipping back and forth so much. Oh man, yeah, that is some old indicators. Man, that's like when I first started streaming here, like a year or two ago. That's some ancient stuff. That's where it all began. Not quite the earliest indicators, but some of the earliest ones that I was using. All right, what was I looking at here on XRP, and what was the entry? Yeah. Oh, another lower low on the 1 minute. Love to see it. I'm actually going to bump up my stop loss on XRP to 51.93. Just to pay myself a little extra if I can. Just because there is that new structure there, so I'm leaving a little bit of wiggle room. But if we break that, there's a chance that we just shoot up. So I just want to protect myself. But again, yeah, I'm updating stop loss, but my stop loss isn't a profit either way now. So here, I should just really throw that in there as well, hey? That's pretty much overlapping, pretty much break even, but... And it carries on. Technically, I could bring this down a little bit, but I'm not changing my stop loss at all. Great to have you back, Cause. Our favorite degenet of the group. Sorry if there's any other ones in here that I don't know about. On XLM, I assume it's behaving pretty much the same as XRP, hey? I just want to keep these ones up. Just gonna bump that up just a little bit. If for nothing else, to help our eyes. Well, I'll love to see that both of these are playing out. I know that game. Too many windows open. It's hard to concentrate. I get you. I got you. I'm gonna take a little nibble out of my Bitcoin profits here. That's a 25% profit so far on that Bitcoin position there. So I just closed another a sixth of the remainder of my position. Have just over half still running. XRP's sitting at 30.5% so far. Still got 2/3 running on this guy. Sweet. Hopefully I don't accidentally leave this. You guys can still hear me, right? Hey, notice we did get that lower high signal print. Something to watch for potential future Stuber entries. For example, if I end up getting some... Oh, that's so unfortunate that my current entry is like right at the 786. Because I really don't want to keep this position open to any risk, which makes my stop loss want to be in a profit. But at the same time, that's damn near where I'd want to enter a new position. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it how I have it for now. XRP, I'm actually gonna close another. Am I on the 5 or the 1? The 1 minute. Just. just in case that turns into any sort of a short-term reversal on XRP, I'm actually going to take a little profits off that again. Just in case. Just curious, did anybody else take these trades? Anybody else take some shorts in this live stream? Or am I all alone? Being a bear has been so lonely since June. Let's check out the 5 minute here. 5 minute here. Just a straight down shot. Man, this is a walk down memory lane with my chart colors like this. Curious, can anybody point out where these remember why I had these chart colors? Little quiz. I don't think too many people would know that answer. Well, you guys, I really want to go eat, but at the same time, I can't look away. Hopefully you guys are enjoying watching the live charts like this. For anybody watching this on my YouTube channel a little later, obviously this is quite a long stream at this point. Hopefully you've been watching at 2x speed. But it's fun to watch. You know, it's always nice, especially after taking a trade setup like this and being able to kind of watch my position, watch what I'm looking for as far as updating it and stuff like that, right? So hopefully you're finding this useful. If you are watching this on my YouTube channel a little later and you do appreciate these insights, do me a favor, hit that like button. If you aren't already, be sure to subscribe. Oh, getting so tongue-tied today. And of course, if these indicators that I use interest you and you want to be a part of these live streams at the MDX ALGO community, there is a link down below in my description for that as well. Obviously, you guys here with me live right now are already in the group, but for those watching on my YouTube channel. And for anyone who needs a new non-KYC exchange or just wants a backup account or anything like that, I'm a fan of having multiple accounts so you're ready for anything. I've been doing most of my trading on Blofin, and there is a referral link there as well. And if that's something that interests you, I currently have I've maxed out for anyone who signs up using my referral link there, or my affiliate link. You get 20% cash back on your trading fees. So obviously not on your positions, but just on the fees that you pay. I have it maxed out to 20% cash back on that. So if that interests you, that's down below as well. What's the Algo Master saying? Oh yeah, just another beautiful down. Yeah, like I was saying with the downward trending sell signals and the downward trending buy signals, just a perfect example right here, playing perfectly into my position. We have this strong sell signal on this indicator, but this is an old one, and I don't think we have access to that anymore, so I'm tempted to never close it. But still seeing resistance there. So just something worth mentioning here. I'm not taking it because I'm not bullish at all. But when I was talking about structure breaks and Stuber fibs and stuff, I mean, here I can just eyeball it. This was a perfect Stuber fib setup technically. Yes, it would have been a very small range and you would have already been taking profits. So yes, very small profits, very small range. But as far as scalping goes, just to show you how often these play out, I mean, that line that I had mapped out there, as far as a potential reversal kind of a thing, notice that when we broke that structure and you pull a fib from those levels, look where we ended up finding support. Right at the 786. I'm just going to delete this red line to clean things up. And we obviously hit the range target, which would have been this 214. So yes, again, very small range. Really depends how you want to look at it. I mean, if you were just looking for some sort of a reversal here, yeah, it's absolutely a nice tight stop loss. I myself am not bullish enough to take long setups right now. But that's just another reason why I was willing to take some profits, right? Just because since it looks like a buy type of a setup, yes, I'm not looking to long, but I will at least buy out some of my short position. With XRP here. So the reason why I would pull it from down here is just because, so remember when I was talking about very micro-analyzed structure breaks? I'm not saying this is necessarily something you should be trading, but this is very, again, micro-analyzing, but the structure is there. Technically, we had this bottom here because we had this green reversal here, and then we set a lower low. So yes, very micro-analyzing, but it's just this very immediate downswing. So technically the top of that would be your lower high. And since this broke, we got that structure break there. That's where I look for my Stuber fib pulls. So I pull it from the bottom to where the price is currently topped out, which would have been there at the time, and just basically chasing the price. And notice we eventually get that pullback to that 786 and blast off from there. So my range target is always the 214, just because that's the opposing 786 approximately. So that's just a typical Stuber scalp setup. That's when people are referring to Stuber setups and stuff like that in the group, that's the setup that they're referring to. So even if this reverses here and just carries on to the downside, as far as that scalp position goes, it absolutely did play out, right? So we got to the 214. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. Again, the more you see it, the more you see it. I always joke, some of you guys may have heard this before, but I always joke that even when I'm outside, if I see trees next to each other, one's shorter than the other, it's like, oh, that's a Stuber tree. If I see buildings, one taller than the other one, it's like, oh yeah, that's a 786 building right there. Like, you just start to see it everywhere. And yeah, obviously I stare at way too many charts, but yeah, it's pretty funny how that works. But honestly, like, do your own back testing and like form your own trading strategies if you're able to kind of see them a bunch, and upon back testing for yourself you're able to pick them out ahead of time and stuff like that, and you know, do some back testing with the replay feature on TradingView. You can go back and see, you know, over the past however long, how many times would my entry have worked with my take profit, or how many times would I have been stopped out, kind of a thing. So you gotta, because we could all have the exact same tools, indicators, trend lines, we would trade the market completely different, right? So you got to do what works for you as well. Obviously not everyone's trading the 1 minute, leads to over trading, over leveraging, revenge trading, all that bad stuff we're supposed to avoid. So just understand that the way I trade is not for everybody. But as far as, I'm more of a scalper, but the structure, the Stuber fibs, like I showed on the 4 hour, I mean, it's the same structure, right? So this would be examples of not micro-analyzed, right? We have an actual decent lower low break, come back to the 786, 886 right here in my red box, and then boom, break back down to the downside, set a new lower low, come back up, pull back to the 786, 886 fib box, and then boom, lower low signal, bounce back to, or not signal, my lower low structure break, bounce, get up to the Stuber fib, and now we've started our downtrend, right? So that's a more appropriate level that, you know, when looking at actual structure levels, that's more so. But it's the same thing as what I'm looking at. It's just, I like micro-analyzing things as well. Well, guys, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. I think we've been here for 2 hours. Holy hell, you guys. Thank you so much for sticking with me and being a part of these. Always appreciate doing these with you guys. Hopefully you guys appreciate them too. Hopefully you're learning something. Hopefully I say something once in a while that just helps something click, you know. I always think of one example that comes to mind, that, you know, all it took was one random YouTube video that I had playing in the background on my other monitors, and just something that one guy randomly said really changed the way I looked at structure. After trading for 2 or 3 years, it was just some random guy. I don't even know who he was. I haven't seen his video again since. I kind of wish I would have subscribed, but just the way somebody worded something just made something click in my head, and I hope to be that person as well, right? I hope that something I say just either tweaks the way you're looking at things, or something I say added into a strategy you're already trading really helps confirm things, or whatever, you know. I aim to be that, so hopefully you are taking something beneficial out of these. Other than that, I think you guys know finally by now how I feel on the market. I shouldn't even say finally by now. I think you've all had a pretty good idea of how I feel about the market for the last several weeks and even months. But yeah, you kind of know what I'm looking at, you know, after doing this stream, kind of the type of trade setups that I'm looking for and why I took these trade setups and so on. So hopefully you guys appreciated it. I appreciate you guys being here with me. I hope you guys make plenty of profits tonight. Good luck out there the rest of the evening. Enjoy the rest of your evening. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.